A fantasy record has been broken. We're going to talk about who did it and how he did it. Man, oh man, big episode. Also the studs and sucks and some latest news and notes and some recaps of two big games yesterday, including the Bills and the Rams and the Chargers and the Chiefs. Man, oh man, are the Chiefs rigging these games because they're just pulling them out at the end? I'm going to talk about it and cover it here on this show. Hope you guys are having an outstanding Monday, exciting weekend of games. And I'm going to highlight, like I said, some of these studs and sucks. If you're new to the channel, make sure you guys smash it, tap it, slap it. I'm going to be covering here NFL highlights, news, everything that's trending. I'm going to be covering it. So not just fantasy, we're going to cover some of these trending topics so you guys are aware of it. So you guys don't need to tune in anywhere else. You can get all your NFL news here. And if there's any big events like another Tyson versus Paul fight, we'll be covering it here as well, covering you with your latest news and notes. So if you aren't subscribed, subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and drop your questions below if you have any. And comment in, are the Chiefs fixing the games? Because it's looking pretty obvious at this point, right? I don't want to dive too much into that, whole rabbit hole, but I've done other videos on that. But it's something we need to talk about, okay? So a couple of things in the news and notes. Again, the biggest thing, though, I want to talk about is this record that's broken. Before I get to the studs and sucks and highlight and honor the sucks of the week at each position, I really do want to talk about Josh Allen breaking the record, most fantasy points by quarterback. How many did he get? 51.88. Let's round up. 51.9 fantasy points. Listen to this, okay? The first quarterback ever, and I mean ever, right, to get 3 passing touchdowns and 3 rushing touchdowns. He threw for 342 yards, rushed for 82 yards, and had a passer rating of 117 passer rating, okay? That is phenomenal. Now, if you guys recall in the 16-round drafts, which I said anchor your team with an ace quarterback, guess who my quarterback is this year? Yes, Josh Allen. Always anchor your team with that ace quarterback. Now, the reason I went Josh Allen this year in fantasy football simply was because I was getting him in second, third round when they were crappy players coming off in rounds 2 to 3. Guys like Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and Nico Collins, who's busted this year, and on, right? I saw the value and I said, make sure you guys get Josh Allen because you're guaranteed those points in rounds 2 to 3, okay? And you can get wide receiver later. So, Josh Allen, congratulations. I know I ripped on him a little bit on social media yesterday because he flopped. It looked ridiculous. There was a Rams defender coming at him, and he kind of fell back to draw the foul. I get what he's doing, but I just think that's a soft move. But he redeemed himself with 51.88 fantasy points. Absolutely amazing. First, like I said, first quarterback to ever have 3 passing touchdowns and 3 rushing touchdowns in one game. History was made last night in fantasy and reality. Amazing stuff, Josh Allen and my quarterback. Congratulations. All right, let's talk about some quarterbacks that were studs and sucks. Let's go through every position and then drop your studs and sucks below. Want to make this ultra interactive. Let's dive into it. So, Sam Darnold, Jalen Hurts, Tua, and Brock, Brock Purdy, a couple guys that had themselves a good game. Now, you always, like I said, this is why it's important to anchor your team with his quarterback, but surprisingly, Sam Darnold has slid into fantasy contention here and made himself a viable fantasy quarterback. Many weeks he's had good weeks. So, Darnold, congrats to you for kind of breaking the mold and having a winning team because nobody expected Minnesota to be doing what they're doing. Absolutely amazing stuff, okay? Speaking of winning, like I said, Chiefs, I want to talk about that, going off on a tangent. We'll get to that in a second, the Chiefs and the Chargers game there for a second. But I do want to talk about the sucks. Will Levis will never amount to anything. What do you have? 7 points and a loss in reality to Jacksonville. This was an easy matchup. They should have easily won this game. Tennessee sucks. And Cousins, I thought he would bounce back. I really thought he'd bounce back coming off a 4-interception week the prior week. Not only does he not come back, he just has under 10 fantasy points and loses again. This is the end of the line. This is where you're like, okay, we're over the hill. We've got to admit our losses, and we're never going to bounce back to the same way we were. Kirk Cousins over the hill. Just throwing interceptions like a crazy person, okay? A couple guys that had a good week, bad week. Again, continuing on with this, like I said, Cousins, Levis, and Pat Mahomes and Caleb Williams, okay? Mediocre games, 14.1 points apiece. These guys, relatively high draft capital in fantasy drafts, just not performing on that level. Now, We're going to get to running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers, but I want to talk about this Chiefs game because they're really squeaking out wins when it matters the most. Now, some people could say it's rigged, and some people say it's fixed. Let's talk about it. But before we even do that, head on over to mybookie.ag. This is a site I've partnered with this year to get in on the action. We got some Monday Night Football tonight. I know a lot of people are out of fantasy football now, or, just had enough of fantasy and they want to get into some bets. MyBookie.ag is a site I use, a site I trust. Use code FFC for the perks. MyBookie.ag. Go create an account, put in your deposit, guys, and this is the site I use. And go have some fun on the site, okay? FFC for there's some cool perks on there. Go check it out. MyBookie.ag, FFC. Go sign up, put your deposit down, and get on the action. If you guys are kind of done with fantasy and want to move on, either way, even if you're not done, I get my bets in every single week. MyBookie.ag, okay? So, again, talk about the Chiefs real quickly. Some people will say that it's probably fixed at this point. I wouldn't doubt it. And if you watched the game yesterday, the field goal wins it. They won 19-17 with that field goal, and it barely went in. Like, they're getting things like by the skin of their teeth. Like, it just boinked off of the side, left upright, and in. They win. And there's been a lot of games where it's coming right down to the wire. That tells me a couple things. It tells me that maybe there's some luck in there. It also tells me that, maybe, just maybe, that they're not a good team. They're just barely squeaking out wins. And sometimes against teams that aren't that good. Now, Chargers are a bit of a better team. I kind of give them credit. Obviously, Herbert got banged up. I think it's a leg contusion. But you got to say to yourself, like, these guys are getting super lucky in games. And obviously, a lot of play calls going in their favor. But man, oh man, they are just squeaking out some wins here, and man, I would not be surprised, I've called this before, that they three-peat this year, because what a great storyline, like Swift and Kelce again, three-peating, and it's just making history again, and who better to do it than the Chiefs? So we got to talk about this, we got to address the elephant in the room. I think the Chiefs and the refs have something going on here, and they're squeaking out these wins, okay? Let's move on to the running backs, doesn't sucks. Zach Charbonnet, 3 points, 51-yard run. I don't know if you saw that. Ultra explosive. And again, I talked about this on an Instagram video. If you're not following on Insta, make sure you guys are following at Fantasy Football Accounts. #1 Instagram page. We're crushing it there. But I got to talk about this because so much talent gets, hindered and pushed to the side and just not talked about because they're sitting beside the, quote, RB1. But typically the RB2 is better than the RB1. In this case, Zach Charbonnet. Walker just can't stay healthy. And I go back to the example of Kyren Williams last year. Had Akers not got hurt, Kyren Williams would have never got that opportunity, would have never seen the talent. And we see so many people being suppressed, right? Because they have another guy in front of them. Guys like Trey Benson, for example, just never really getting the shot. But Zach Charbonnet proving he's got the shot, had the shot, and he absolutely tore it up. Isaac Guerendo got banged up with the foot. Also crushed to 26.8 points. Now, Isaac Guerendo came in, and this is what I was telling you. CMC's good, but he's a product of the offense. Isaac Guerendo comes in, Mason comes in, and these guys perform well in fantasy because it's a good O-line, it's a good team. They do well, but Isaac Guerendo, 26.8 points. Then he got sidelined, averaging 5.2 yards per carry prior to the injury. Did well. Other honorable mentions that did really well, Rashad White, because Bucky Irving was banged up, had a back issue, didn't play the whole game, and Josh Jacobs had a good week this week. So those are some guys that did well. Some of the guys that sucks. Now, I got to talk about this. Pacheco, 8.1 fantasy points. I got to address that. Nick Chubb, 4.8. Kamara, only 12.3 points. James Cook, 4.9. In a high-scoring game, but Josh Allen took a lot of that volume away from James Cook. He was just on a roll. But I know a lot of people started James Cook. Very disappointing, okay? Wide receivers. Puka Nacua, outstanding game. Sealed the game for his offense. Addison and Jefferson both having good games. And Tyreek Hill getting into the pay dirt this week, having himself a good game as well. Guys that did bad. Now, this is crazy because these are some big names. A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra only 10.3 fantasy points. That is ridiculous out of a first-round pick. Mike Evans, 10.9. And when Mike Evans, he's money, man. When he plays, he's in. He's doing good. Only 10.9 points. And Marvin Harrison Jr. just not giving that return on investment, guys. Like, we're talking about a guy that literally was drafted in the second round, just did not give his return on investment. A big part of that, Kyler Murray, just not that good. 8.9 fantasy points last week for Marvin Harrison Jr. Absolutely terrible. And Marvin Harrison Jr., it looks like JSN, Jackson Smith, has taken over the wide receiver 1 role. Metcalf, only 8.9 points, another bust of the week. These are some big names that were drafted with high draft capital. Mind you, I avoided guys like Deebo Samuel also. I want to mention here, 5.5 points. I avoided Deebo Samuel. I avoided these early round wide receivers because you get wide receiver value later. Now, it seems like wide receivers are going by committee. So if that's the case, you see Addison outscoring Jefferson, you see these guys busting. Why not get a wide receiver later? That's what I've been preaching in the 16-round draft session, which, again, is going to be available for pre-order in a couple of months so you get back into the action. We're going to start rolling out 2025 content. But very disappointing. Evans, Metcalf, Marvin Harrison, Amon-Ra, Deebo. Drop a name of a guy that disappointed you. I might be missing a couple here, okay? Now, again, tight end, I don't have any expectations for tight end other than 10 points. But Kittle, Njoku, some honorable mentions for guys that did well. But Kyle Pitts, man, I mean, he's a bust. 4 fantasy points. Bowers and Hawkinson, both 8 points this week. And these guys had good weeks. Well, Bowers had a really good week last week. Didn't do it this week. But with the tight end position, it can be volatile. But if you get 10 points out of your tight end, you are doing good, okay? So those are some highlights from this week. Again, the highlight game, again, was I really liked the Buffalo Rams game. Buffalo didn't pull it out at the end. The Rams did. Exciting game. Just the high scoring. Very, very exciting. And, a lot of fantasy relevance. Congratulations to the star. I really want to honor him, is Josh Allen, for breaking records. Absolutely amazing stuff, Josh Allen. I didn't like the flop in the game, but I did like the performance. Amazing stuff. If you're new to the channel, smash it, tap it, slap it. You're up to date here. Hit the thumbs up and drop it below who crapped the bed for you and who was a star for you. Did you guys get 16 rounds and draft Josh Allen? Let me know in the comments. I'll keep the content rolling for you. Appreciate you. I'm out.